To me, it seems a bit strange that in 2021 we still have kids that aren't allowed locks on their doors or privacy for all matters, and for some, that's not a matter for anyone else to judge, but here, we will definitely be judging them. G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee, and welcome back to another episode of r/AmITheA. Now if you love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn of the Barbie, and get ready for it. Let's go. Am I the arsehole for siding with my wife when she refused to let my son install the lock that his mum got him for his room? I married my current wife 6 years ago. She has a 14-year-old son, and I have a 16-year-old son from my previous marriage. We normally don't deal with a ton of issues as a blended family. My stepson Joshua is nice to everyone and likes sharing a lot. It's his way of forming strong bonds. My son Scotty, however, is the complete opposite. He hates sharing and is very private. He takes offense to his brother going into his room and borrowing stuff from him. He hates that Joshua does it frequently, but my wife and I thought it was completely normal as long as Joshua returns everything later. Scotty started complaining about it openly lately, saying Joshua has gone too far with his behavior, taking stuff constantly without permission. My wife and I came up with a solution, which was getting Scotty a safe to store his valuable possessions. But Scotty said this wasn't enough, since he has tons of stuff and can't put it all in a safe. It all came to a head last week when Joshua took Scotty's Lego collection to take pictures of it outside the house and accidentally broke a couple of pieces. Scotty blew up and got his mum involved. My ex-wife then bought and sent him a lock to install in his bedroom door that same day, which got my wife go mad, calling her disrespectful and overstepping to send locks over to our house. They had a verbal fight on the phone, and I returned home to see my wife arguing with Scotty after he refused to return the lock. I asked what the hell was going on, and my wife said Scotty was expecting her to let him install the lock his mum sent to our house. She said neither boy is allowed to have locks. Scotty said he was done with Joshua taking and breaking his stuff and begged me to say something, or to convince my wife to let him keep the lock. But I told him my wife was right in that it was disrespectful of his mum to send a lock to our house. Scotty said that if we are so against his mum getting him a lock, then I should get him one instead. But I refused, since my wife said neither boys are allowed a lock. So it's not like Joshua has a lock and Scotty doesn't. Scotty threw a fit and is now calling me terrible and that he can't wait to move out and be done with our nonsense. We had Joshua apologize, but still, Scotty isn't having it. My former in-laws argued that I was being unfair to Scotty after he complained to them and told me to let him keep the lock and not side with my wife and her son. Am I the arsehole? I think you are the arsehole in this situation, as the lock is the easiest way to go about this situation without a physical confrontation between the two. Everyone but your wife and the wife's son is against you on this matter, and yet you continue to be on the wife and the son's side. I can understand in other matters that it may be okay to die on this hill, but this is not one of those situations. You continuing to disrespect your son in this way and not give him a lock which gives him privacy in his room is only going to lead to him cutting you off when he's 18. So yes, you're the arsehole for this. Now in the comments, Bookish4269 says, yes, you're the arsehole. I have news for you. Joshua is not nice to everyone. Being nice includes respecting others' belongings and their privacy, and he is not doing that with your son. He invades Scotty's privacy, takes his stuff without permission, and apparently damages some of it. That's not sharing, that is taking without permission. We have a word for that, and it is not sharing. You are the problem here. You do nothing to correct Joshua's bad behavior or support Scotty in setting entirely reasonable boundaries for his privacy. You obviously favor your stepson and have zero respect for Scotty's need for privacy and security that his things belong to him. Your ex was right on to send him a lock. Thank goodness she's looking out for his concerns, since you won't and your asshole wife doesn't think it matters. Fun fact, nice people typically don't steal. Fun fact 2, taking without asking is stealing. You're the asshole. And also, stealing isn't sharing. OP says Joshua is a nice kid who forms bonds by sharing, and then spends the rest of the post describing all the many items he has stolen. OP, Your stepson is a brat. You owe your son an apology for allowing this to go on for so long. Joshua needs to do more than just apologize. He needs to replace what he's broken and stay out of Scotty's room. Stick up for your son and let him put the lock on his door. And if something doesn't change, I could see Scotty going low contact or no contact once he moves out. I agree with you. Scotty full-on said he can't wait to move out and be done with their nonsense. Translation, I will go no contact with you as soon as humanly possible, and I won't have any regrets about it. I wish Scotty could just move in with his mother and start his glorious no-contact life, in which he has his own space, his own belongings not getting stolen by Golden Child, and a parent who actually gives an F about him. OP, yes, you're the asshole. Our next post is by user, Am I the Asshole Not So Good Dad? Titled, Am I the asshole for telling my husband he isn't as good of a dad as he thinks he is? My husband and I were separated during my pregnancy. He ended up getting custody of our 2-year-old son because I was unwell. I had postpartum psychosis. I moved back to my home country, got treatment, and have been saving as much money as possible so I could try to get my son back and divorce my husband. My sister-in-law kept in touch with me throughout the years and would send me pictures and videos of my son. She convinced her brother/my husband to contact me and helped us come to an agreement that I could slowly be reintroduced into our son's life. He has put a lot of conditions on this. I can't be alone with him, I only get a set time limit with him each day, I can't take him outside, I have to live here, etc. I've been following every single rule, but yesterday I finally had enough. My son wanted to keep playing after our time was over, and his nanny came to take him away. He was crying badly, and I tried to suggest they just leave him with me. The nanny was going to let him stay, but my husband told her to take him outside. After they left, I told him he wasn't as good of a dad as he thinks he is, and that he was punishing our son to hurt me. I've never seen him so angry, and he told me that I was one to talk. Since then, he's been giving me the cold shoulder. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, any scientist says, You're the asshole. Your husband has been there for him through the years. He is giving you a chance to get to know your son. Stop acting entitled and take it slow. You're the asshole. This. I'd like to second this wholeheartedly. OP, it pained me to read your write-up, and I kept finding myself thinking, she can't be serious, can she? But alas, you were. Take this opportunity to quit being such an asshole, get to know your child, and learn to be there for them, as opposed to taking out your frustrations in a vindictive post. You're the asshole. I'm getting a strong missing reasons feeling here. You state you are unwell without being specific about it, then you move to a different country. I'm sorry, but many would consider that abandonment. What kind of treatment is something you couldn't do while staying in the same country? I could understand a different state as a specialized treatment center can be out of state, but there's no info on what condition it is. You were gone for years. Years. How many years? You're mad that you have to live in the same area as your kid? You are mad that the person who has been doing all the heavy lifting has concerns about your behavior. To be blunt, your ex was given full custody, which is something courts usually don't do without reason. Your subsequent behavior does not cover you with glory. It also sounds like you were not sending child support either. Without more info, how are you different from any other deadbeat parent? I don't hear any real concern for your kid, but only about what you are owed in terms of getting parental props and entitlement. Frankly, you are not a parent. You are just a gamete donor who is fortunate that you get to see the kid after dipping out. And OP replies to that, I'm originally from the UK, where healthcare is free and I had family support, which I desperately needed, which is why I moved. The treatment was very expensive here, and since I knew I would eventually need money to fight a court case, it made the most sense for me to move, instead of getting into debt to get treated. It wasn't an easy decision. I got treatment for 10 months. I reached out to ask if my husband would let me see my son, and he refused. So I spent the last 18 months saving as much as possible so I could take him to court. If I wasn't concerned about my son, I would have forced this through the courts. My lawyer was confident I could get custody, but it wouldn't be good for my son to be suddenly forced to be alone with someone he barely knows. Wait, so you leave for 10 months and you think he was just going to hand his baby off to you, and you have the audacity to judge, when in total, you've been gone for 28 months. Okay. You are aware that postpartum psychosis is the ailment that causes the baby killing, right? Are you seriously suggesting that someone with a mental condition that has been known to cause mothers to drown their own babies in an episode to not get treatment and to stay with their baby without having had that treatment? All the more reason the father didn't want her close to the baby after 10 months. He couldn't have full proof that she was cured. The doctors cleared her? This isn't crap like PTSD or depression where it's all in your brain and doctors have to rely on patients being honest and not lying and acting. Postpartum is brain plus hormones. You can check if the patient is being honest by seeing whether improvement checks out with the blood work. Our next post is by user Curse You Buzz Lightyear, titled, Am I the asshole for telling my dad that he's an effing man-child for refusing to deal with my sister's first period? My parents are divorced. My mum lives about 2 hours away from my dad, his fiancée, and my sister. This week I visited home and stayed with my dad and sister. I get home at around 7 in the morning and see my dad off to work and sister off to school. At around noon, I wake up to a phone call from my mum telling me that I need to go pick my sister up from school. I ask what's going on, and she tells me that my sister started her period and left her go bag at her place. I say okay, get in my car, lay down some stuff, and start heading to her school. On the way there, I get a call from my dad, and I'm told to not worry about it and go home. I'm told that my dad's fiancée will take care of it after she gets off work. I tell him that I'm not busy right now and can get her. He tells me that I'm a man, and I don't need to handle it, and I should let a woman handle a woman's problem. I'm kinda dumbfounded, but hey, if his fiancée is on her way over, I get to go back to sleep for the rest of the day. I ask how long it'll be till she's there so I can keep my mum in the loop. He says these exact words. She gets off at 3, the school will give her some new pants for the time being. Which is crazy, right? And I tell him that's ridiculous and I'm going to pick her up. He legitimately tells me no and tells me to turn around, and I say I'm going to get my sister and hang up before he argues. I get her, I ask if she has any feminine products at home and she says no. So I take her to the store and buy her some pads and tampons of different flows, and I got her some of the foods my girlfriend wants when she's on the rag. We get home, and I tell her to wake me if she needs anything, and I go back to sleep. An hours later, I wake up to banging on the door. It's my dad, and he's yelling at me for defying him, and taking care of my sister. He then tells me it's disgusting that I bought her stuff, and that I'm her brother, and I shouldn't be involved in her sexual health. I tell him that he's being ridiculous. He tells me that I need to never do things like this again. I tell him he's acting like a frickin' man-child. He goes off and kicks me out. So I pack up and go to my mum's, where she tells me that I shouldn't have said what I said even if it was true. Even my girlfriend told me that I overreacted and shouldn't have sworn at my dad. Am I the asshole? Dad's just being a see you in the Northern Territory, and I don't blame you for calling him an effing man-baby in this situation, because he was being a man-baby. His stupid views about this situation, i.e. only women should be looking after women, men don't need to and they shouldn't do it, are ridiculously outdated. Screw this guy, he's an asshole, not much else to say. But you're not the asshole for that one, OP, so not the asshole. Now in the comments, Sarcastic Absent says, not the asshole. That's a very gross and unhealthy mentality for your father to have. You did the right thing. This was nowhere near an overreaction. Someone needed to call him on it finally. Any man who thinks periods are shameful or none of their concern has no business going near a vagina. Since when are periods part of sexual health? It's part of being a woman. Nothing more, nothing less. OP is an enlightened man who took good care of his sister. I wouldn't pay much attention to a man who was marrying a woman who was only 6 years older than his son. And I'm just curious why he thinks a period is sexual health and why that differs from regular health. But anyway, not the asshole. You were just being a decent human. I think you already know that, though. Well, it's because he probably has only been taught about the sexual purposes of that particular part. So if he ever hears so much as the name, all he knows about is that it's used for sex. All this is regular health, and OP is most certainly not the asshole for this because he's right. It's immature and childish to be disgusted to that level by a period. And because it's childish to be a father and still think that that part only exists for sexual purposes. I'd love to say that I can't imagine being 11 and stuck at school for hours after getting a surprise period, but unfortunately I don't have to imagine it. OP is such a hero for coming through for his sister. And our next post is by user, The One Who Can Relate, titled, Am I the asshole for calling my stepson a bully to his face and in front of the whole family? My stepson Austin, 19, has a cousin aged 14 who has a burn scar that covers his arm and neck. Austin picks on him constantly with hurtful comments. Some of the stuff he says is, "Are you still able to make friends looking like that?" Or, "How are you going to get a girl to go out with you when you're looking like that?" And more. It's infuriating because my wife and her family think this form of teasing is okay, since that's his cousin. But I couldn't handle sitting there watching Austin treat his cousin like that. I truly felt disgusted as I had a burn scar from a truck accident, but it's concealed. So it's not the same, but it struck a nerve in me. Plus, my nephew-in-law clearly felt awful, but nobody cared enough to notice. I brought it up with my wife and told her how I felt about Austin's blatant bullying, and she called me silly for using the word bullying. He's just teasing his cousin, as in normal stuff between boys. I said I won't stay quiet next time he does it, and she shrugged me off. We were at my in-laws having dinner when Austin asked me to pass him the salad plate. His cousin was right next to him, so we tried passing the plate to Austin, but Austin got grossed out and yelled at him to not touch the plate with his burnt hand. I was stunned, and expectedly, no one said anything. I told Austin that what he was doing was wrong, that he would never look good by making someone else look bad, and that's what bullies do, and he was being a bully. He was shocked, and the family were quiet as I continued that if he thought doing this stuff will make him look superior, then that's a sorry state to be in, and it shows how it clearly reflects his own insecurities, and he should find a healthy outlet for these insecurities, instead of feeding his confidence off of other people's unfortunate circumstances. I said his cousin has no control over his injury, but he, on the other hand, has control over how he treats others. Austin couldn't even look at me. He got up and rushed upstairs. Mother-in-law followed after giving me a nasty look. Dinner was awkward and no one ate. My wife was highly upset, saying that Austin was just messing with his cousin. But I said all I saw was mistreatment and an offender getting away with it. She said still, I shouldn't have called him a bully to his face and in front of everyone, and then doubled down and said that he has insecurities. She stated just like her family, Austin was shocked, taken by surprise, and won't be blamed for no longer seeing me the same. And that since he apologized to his cousin, then it's my turn to apologize to him. But I said I won't. They are both sulking. And edit to add, I feel like I just had to put the following for more context. Mother-in-law said a couple of things. Number one, I, as someone who is married in, shouldn't get involved in private family matters. And number two, she suggested that since I was shamelessly willing to call Austin a bully in front of the family, then Lord knows how poorly I treat him at home, and she insisted on taking Austin in. Yep, this family just sucks all around, and it seems like Austin is just a product of his environment then. If that's the way the in-laws treat him, and this is the way that your partner enables him, it's no wonder he continues to act this way and think of himself as the victim. It's weird that you're married into this family, yet you don't get to be involved in private family matters. You've committed yourself to this family as much as you possibly can, yet you're still an outsider. Just goes to show that this is in-group bullying mentality that the family doesn't care about, and they are collectively, in my opinion, all assholes, your wife included. I'm gonna say you're not the asshole for calling him a bully. Maybe not the best time and place for sure, but Austin's 19 years old. He ran off and had a sook after all of that. A 19-year-old being a sook after being called out for being a bully is just so weak. Not the asshole, OP. Now in the comments, Sepher32 says, "Dear Lord, not the asshole." How is everyone else okay with this? Good for you for being the only compassionate or mature individual in the room. And edit, also a 19-year-old adult bullying a 14-year-old child? More of the same boys will be boys bullcrap we see all too often, excusing atrocious actions. And OP replied, quote, "How was everyone else okay with this? I don't know why, but maybe because I was the one who pointed it out, and since my in-laws aren't fond of me, they're accusing me of being out of line and stepping into relatives' issues." I put quotations because my in-laws always make it painfully clear that I'm not Austin's dad, but just a guy who married in. To add, they have a good relationship with Austin's dad, who is in my opinion, a complete POS. And someone replies to OP, "Your wife is an asshole, who raised an asshole." Someone replies to that, "Whole family of assholes if you ask me, with the possible exception of the cousin. Poor kid. I personally don't think this sort of behavior should be tolerated from family members any more than classmates or peers. I love my siblings, but I have all kinds of emotional scars from how they used to torment me to help me grow a thicker skin. They would push me to the breaking point, and then I'd be scolded and punished for reacting. It didn't matter if I managed to politely ask them to stop, they'd keep going until they got me to react. This didn't teach me ways to keep my cool. It taught me it didn't matter if I kept my cool, so I may as well lose it from the first. OP is definitely not the asshole, and I bet the cousin will remember this forever, just like I remember the people who stood up for me." Jock says, "Not the asshole, but your wife sure is defending her asshole son. Her parents included. It's not hard to see where the stepson's behavior comes from. Not the asshole." Consistent Leopard says, "You called a bully to his face, and as is usually the case with bullies, he couldn't take it and ran away. Austin is 19 years old and should be well aware that no one deserves to be treated the way he treated his cousin. You do not owe Austin an apology." Anyway guys, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you did like it, tell me what you thought about it down in the comments below, and make sure to just interact with everyone in this community. I love each and every one of you that I get to see on a daily basis. And don't forget, if you are a Patreon subscriber, I love you. You're on the screen right now with the YouTube members as well. If you see yourself, give yourself a pat in the back. You guys help me continue this YouTube journey. You keep me going. I see you guys everywhere. I see your messages, and thank you so much for supporting me. I really love every single one of you. But with that all said, I'm going to be signing off now, guys. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.